day students. Today in this session, in the earlier session I have discussed with you the definition of unpaid seller under Sale of Goods Act. Now I will discuss a very important point, that is right of unpaid seller. Mind you, again this is again very important from your examination point of view. So let's discuss what is right of unpaid seller. Right of unpaid seller. See, the right of unpaid seller has been segregated into two groups: right against the goods and right against the buyer. Let's see what is right. What are the rights this unpaid seller have against the goods which he has sold to the buyer? Now, number one, right of lien. Lien means something which is mortgaged. So, ultimately, if we see, the goods are actually being mortgaged until and unless the whole amount is being paid for the goods. That is, until certain charges are paid. That means the goods are of the right. The goods are totally have the right of the seller until and unless the buyer pays him the full amount. Okay, if the buyer fails to do so, the seller can say these goods are mine. He can claim his sold goods. Sorry. Next, right of stoppage in transit. Transit means when the goods are going from seller to the buyer. In this process, it passes through very middleman. There can be transits through road, through railways. It can be export and import transit. So, again, if the seller found the buyer is not willing to pay him for the goods, if the buyer become insolvent, if the buyer become uninterested in the goods sold, he has the right to stop the goods in the transit. That means, on going from one place, from seller to buyer, in between, if he finds unsatisfactory in dealing with the buyer, he has the right to stop the transit of the goods. The third comes right of resale. But mind you students, right of resale will only come when these above two rights are not fulfilled. That means, if he has right of lien, he has right of stoppage. After doing these two, what will the seller do to the goods which he has taken away from the existing buyer? Because he has failed to do so. So, again the seller will sell the goods to some next buyer, to some other buyer. It may be if the buyer lapses the time. Take for example, Mr. X sold the goods to Mr. Y on the agreement that he is going to pay the full amount of goods within 3 months. After 3 months, if Mr. Y didn't pay him the goods back, so he will remind him, and after a stipulated time, he will resell that goods to Mr. Z. So, against the goods, the unpaid seller has three rights: right of lien, right of stoppage in transit, and right of resale. Now, against the buyer, for the buyer, if the buyer failed to pay him, if the buyer failed to perform, he has again three rights. Right, suit, he can sue him. Suit means he can file a case against him in the court of law. That will be suit for price of goods. That means he can sue in the court that I need my goods price. Suit for damages. If the goods get damaged, he is not paid, he will sue for it. And the last is suit for interest. This is in case of lapse of time. Lapse of time. Take for example, again the same example. X sold Y the goods and who agrees to pay in 3 months. Y pays him after 5 months. So the 2 months, 5 minus 3, the 2 months which is extra, the seller can claim the interest for this 2 months. So students, in this I have have discussed with you the right of unpaid seller. Now if you come to the question part, the question can be given such that define unpaid seller, discuss the rights of unpaid seller, or it can also give define who is an unpaid seller, what are its rights. It can segregate it against the buyer and against the goods he has sold. So in each case you give your answer to the fullest, and please remember, again I am repeating, in law try to quote as many as example as you can. Like I have explained you Mr. X, Mr. Y, very simply, you don't have to mug up anything. Very simply, whatever comes to your mind through the explanation, give example. This will definitely enrich your answer. So, hope this session is helpful for you. Stay good, stay home, stay safe. Thank you.